some of the different stakeholders in the game are doing. You know, one of the things, I'll be honest with you, C-Trade, what drives C-Trade is data. What the clients, what the constituents are saying, what the tourists are saying about whom. Not just taxi drivers. So this is not just, this is in general. They talk about the restaurants, they talk about the service, they talk about the good and bad. So a lot of times when we stay focused on one thing, they cover all aspects of things. And these, who does it best? Especially those in the cruise industry. They survey their passengers before they leave. And a lot of you cruise too. And you give that information. And that's how they improve on their product. So I ask you to just come to C-Trade. This year we were fortunate to have some good, long conversations. My Crucian colleagues were able to have some good conversations with Royal Caribbean about things they could do in St. Croix. And they haven't left out St. John. Right now, Viper's in negotiation with Royal Caribbean to do some major work in the Crown Bay area and St. Thomas. And that partnership is going forward. And you know what? We're going to need you here too, because everybody can't fit in Crown Bay. So some have to come to Red Oak. And another thing, as C-Trade was surprising. They didn't just talk about the tourists. They talk about how the residents treat each other as well too. At C-Trade, in front of the tourists. So some of that we're going to be discussing tonight. But again, I urge you, and I'm going to leave Senator Blyden or Senator Gittins talk a little more about C-Trade as well.
Thank you, Senator Lewis. Again, let me just add to what Senator Lewis spoke to. It's important to note, though, that other island destinations, taxi drivers come to C-Trade, They come, observe, look at what's going on, soak in everything, go back and rebrand what they're doing based on what they're telling them they want, what they're looking for, what the tourists are saying. Because they have inside information that we don't really have, C-Trade is very important. It's a good place to be. At least I think you need to experience at least once to see exactly what's going on in the space, because it's very important, because they're telling you everything that's coming back to them based on the industry. And they're the experts in terms of, they're the ones with the ships, they're the ones that's coming on the surveys, etc. And they do inside surveys and stuff, so they know what the tourists them want, and they are telling you what they are looking for and how to improve your brand. So I just want to share that also with you. So it's not all about individual going to C-Trade, but you guys are on the front line. You're on the ground, so it's important that you be involved and be vested in your business when it comes to C-Trade in another aspect, to have like a cheat sheet to know exactly what to do, who, what, when, where, and why. That's important also.
Thank you, and I wanted to chime in also because C-Trade is a global cruise ship conference, and they have industries from the Pacific, the Atlantic, the transatlantic, and of course the Caribbean. And we're all technically competing against each other. And it's relatively important that our representatives from your industry participate, because, like was mentioned before by my colleagues, other taxi association representatives from around the Caribbean attend this. And what they do is they network, and they're able to share their information, whether it's website, email, phone number, access the communication, because now they have a direct contact to the cruise ship liner. So in some cases, when we have like global tours and these operators who may need or want to utilize a taxi driver to provide a service, you're only getting a percentage, correct? So you now, as an association, are able to have a direct link to these cruise ship liners and network, and now you're going to see more activity, more accessibility, more funding for your association and your drivers directly, and not have to be the middleman technically. Senator Giddens?
Good evening, everyone. So you've been hearing about the C-Trade Global Cruise Conference. And like I said on St. Croix, one of my disappointments when I get to see trade is that when it comes to the U.S. Virgin Islands, and let me just stick with the U.S. Virgin Islands, I am always seeing government officials and not people from the industry, taxi drivers, restaurant owners, people that do the excursions, etc. These are folks who needs to be at the table so that they could hear firsthand what's taking place. So, excuse me. So while we were there, we engaged in good conversation, off-camera conversation. And saying that, Mr. At-large Senator, you put me on the spot tonight because initially when we started these meetings, we said the initial meeting would be off cameras. I noticed we have cameras tonight. So I'm gonna hear them say on St. Croix, oh, he didn't want us to be heard. But they're hearing St. John and St. Thomas, but it wasn't designed like that. But I'm kind of happy that we're having it recorded because on St. Croix, some things came out of that meeting that wasn't even in that direction. They said we were pushing right share. But in any case, as we met with the board members and the executive director for Port Authority and the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, like I said, we had some good off-camera conversations. They told us some of the things that we were actually doing wrong. And of course, we wanted the feedback from the passengers themselves. I couldn't even imagine what it is exactly that they wanted to see in the town of Frederiksted and St. Croix, because I'm continuously crying out about the conditions of our buildings in the downtown areas. I don't know what it's going to take for us to address that. I think I have a simple fix for that, but that's for another time. In any case, as they told us some of the things that we need to do, we made a commitment. The Senate President was there, Milton Potter, the Finance Chair, Senator Francis, the Majority Leader, Senator Kurt Vaile, and the Senate Minority Leader, Senator Dwayne DeGraff. And just like how Royal Caribbean made a commitment to us, we made a commitment to them for the District of St. Croix that we will turn some of the things around that they've brought to our attention. With that, we got our colleagues to all agree that we would put $5 million towards the revitalization start of a project in the downtown Frederiksted area. Frederiksted is a unique area. As you pull into this cruise ship dock, this is one destination that once you pull in, on your left, you're flanked with a long row beach. On your right, the same thing, a long row beach. I mean, it's not the best now because of the erosion and whatnot that's taken place over the years, but we have committed to do certain things in those areas. For instance, the walk from the pier itself towards the Fort Frederick Beach. There's a bridge there that passengers could actually walk to the beach. If you go there now, the bridge has been down since the hurricanes. We want to get all of that repaired so that the passengers who don't catch the taxis can actually walk to the beach in that area. What we'll also like to do is create a task force. St. Croix having one in that district, and a task force for the St. Thomas, St. John district. And at times the task force will come together, but we decided we should separate the task force because St. Thomas, St. John is much more organized than St. Croix is. We understand that. So St. Croix may have a lot more work to be done. But at some given time, we need to have that coordinated effort. And one of the things that we're looking at across the territory is customer service. Customer service, training, our appearance. Your appearance, I mean, I heard my colleagues talk about us being, you guys being ambassadors. The first people that they come in contact with, the last people that they come in contact with. We want you to leave a lasting impression. So as we put the task force together, again, we're looking at the customer service. We're looking at enhancing the driver training and certification, the modernization of the entire taxi industry, the resolution of the industry conflicts, and regulating the fares. Too often, you will get on one taxi and they charge one price to go to a destination. Somebody else come up, they want to go to the same destination, and there's some ridiculous price. At some point, we have to have regulation in place. We have to be able to regulate all these fares across the board. So at the appropriate time, we're gonna, hopefully there was a sign-in sheet, or before you leave, there will be a sign-in sheet for you to put your contact name, number, and your email address, and let us know if you would be interested in serving on the task force. Again, the task force will be a St. Thomas, St. John District Task Force and a St. Croix District Task Force, and at times, both task force will get together. So I want to just thank the Senator at large for taking the lead here in the Island District of St. Thomas, and Senator, for taking the lead here on St. John, and Senator Lewis for taking the lead on St. Thomas tomorrow evening. And thank you, colleagues, for your interest and being here with us tonight. Thank you all so much, and looking forward to hearing some of your concerns as well, because we did get a lot of good concerns on St. Croix that we are definitely going to be working on. So we want to hear from you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we go to Senator Carla Joseph, I neglected to say congratulations to the new taxi tour operator graduates, Ms. Yvette Stapleton and Mr. Stedman Hodge. Congratulations. Oh, one more? Who else? Oh, okay, Dwayne Lawrenson. Okay. Congratulations to the new taxi drivers.
Thank you so much, Senator Bolkes. I really want to just echo that congratulations. That's been a long time in coming to get taxi drivers, get new operators. So really kudos to you. Kudos also to the interim executive director and the taxi cab commission board, because that's been a long, long time in coming. I just want to say one key point, and then I'm going to be quiet, and I really am very interested in what you all have to say. You know why we're here this evening? We're here this evening because the statistics is showing that the Virgin Islands is one of the #1 destinations. The Caribbean as a whole, when we go to see trade, okay, is showing that the Virgin Islands, the Caribbean as a whole, is a #1 destination for cruising. And we have it. We are ahead of most, if not all, of the markets. And we want to keep it that way. And how can we do it? We need you, just like you need us, to be able to stay on top. It's no tug of war here. We all in it together, okay? And so if you are, and we all are benefiting, we all have to make sure we spend the time and be intentional on what we do going forward. Yes, we're going to have a little push and tug here and there, but we want to be able to put our best foot forward to represent the Virgin Islands. That's why my colleagues and I are just here tonight, and we are pushing and asking you to become part of and participate in the sea trade. There's a food and beverage component. I visited it number of times when I go to the sea trade. And these are vendors who actually have, and they're opening opportunities for them to serve their dishes on the cruise ships. That's another area. Another area that we could venture in. We could cook here. We have really great restaurateurs and chefs here in the Virgin Islands. So that is another opportunity that is there. And we want to be able to have you explore those opportunities by investing. You know, it's a professional development investment for the taxi drivers to definitely invest and come and attend and participate in the sea trade. And I'm anxious right now to review my notes from 2023 and see what updates we've had. And I'll turn it over to Senator Bolkes.
One of the things I'd like to say too before I give it to Senator Bolkes is that I'd like to really say thank you to all the taxi drivers especially in the St. Thomas and John district. And let me tell you why I really want to express this. Last weekend, we had the USS Iwo Jima, sorry, thank you. And the taxi drivers in Crown Bay. And I know some of them made it to St. John. But all of those sailors that I met talked how good the transportation was. And it was a blessing to them. I'm glad for whoever made that connection. And I'm glad that you guys lived up to your end of the bargain and making them feel comfortable and safe to be in the Virgin Islands. Thank you for doing that every day. Not just for the sailors, but it means for all our residents and passengers alike. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And we sort of coupled in the highlights and the taxi expectations throughout the discussion here with the panel. And I wanted to touch on it one last time before we go over to the Department of Tourism. One of the most important things when we talk about taxi expectations, we understand that you're independent business owners, but there is a call to action in the sense of being able to, especially here for our Virgin Islands, that's important to us, is that we want to push our VI history, our culture, our music, our food, and I know that that is a requisite. For the new graduates, you all did have to do sort of a VI history course, correct? Correct. So that is very important because a one-time visitor does not do anything for our economy. It just holds it in a pattern. When you have return visitors, that's when your economy grows. So we want to encourage you to continue to push our culture, push our heritage, our history, our music, our food, make them want to come back. And even if they don't come back, let them refer the Virgin Islands to somebody else. And that's also potentially growth as well. So we're going to go over to the Department of Tourism. You're recognized.
Good evening again. Elizabeth Hanson-Watley here. First, I want to just congratulate you for making the effort to be here.
Ms. Watley, would you like to come up here? It'd be better that way. She customized the spotlight one.
Yes. Good evening again. I was just congratulating you on coming out. I know that you guys work very hard, and this is an extra ask of you to come out, but you felt it important enough to show up, and so I congratulate you for already stepping out on the right foot. At the Department of Tourism, you know, we work hand in hand. Also, being a part of the Taxi Cab Commission Board, I have a more intricate role. I have another board member here. You may be familiar with Ms. George. And also the acting executive director. I have to shout them out because I know one of the things you may be familiar with is that we don't have a big staff at the Taxi Cab Commission. So they really have a yeoman's job to do. And I want to just tell you guys thank you for being able to give us some grace while we work out the kinks at the Taxi Cab Commission. One of the things from the Department of Tourism that we want to share with you is that we want to commit to being more connected to the community, hearing from you as the drivers, being able to respond and address whatever concerns that you have, because this isn't just about the tourists. This is about, we know the importance of what you do for the territory. It's not just tourists, you know, and you are a representation of us, right? So we always want to make sure that you do the best. One of the things that we're mandated with at the Taxi Cab Commission is making sure that we evolve the industry to make sure that it's vibrant, it's competitive, and we maintain the industry in the territory. You have to remember we're in the Eastern, well, I can't say Eastern, we're in the Caribbean, and so our neighbors, although we love them very much and we have great friendships and relationships, we are competing with our neighbors. And so we have to keep that in mind. We always have to have our best foot forward. And so one of the things that we're doing now is, instead of just talking to you and mandating things to you, we want to hear from you about, because you're the experts, you're the subject experts, and we want to hear from you about what we can improve from the governmental side. So tourism, the legislature, you know, Taxi Cab Commission, we're not just about regulation, but also improving the industry. And so I think that I'm happy about what we're doing now, where we can have all the players in the room. We could get all the hard questions out of the way and find out what the solutions, suggestions are. And like I said, you're the subject expert, so we expect to hear how you think we can improve what we do for you, right? I'm here to answer any questions. I'm not one of those people, if I don't know, I ain't gonna lie and say I know. I'm gonna say I'll find out. You know, but I'm here. I caught that small plane and that boat to come over from St. Croix because I want you to know me. I don't want you to just hear my name and hear about us as board members. We're trying to change the dynamics of the board where you know who represent you. You know who to put our feet to the fire if we ain't doing the right thing. But at least you know who we are. And we're Virgin Islanders like everybody else. No matter where we may have come from, when we hear we're all Virgin Islanders, and so we have to work as a collective to make sure we do great. All right? So we're here for you. So I look forward to a very good conversation, and then we'll be able to go back and do what we have to do as a team to improve for you. Okay? Thank you so much. We have our acting executive director of Taxi Cab Commission.
Thank you so much, Ms. Watley from the Department of Tourism. Please give her a hand. And Taxi Cab Commission. Dual roles.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Thank you for those great words. And it's indeed a pleasure. It's indeed a pleasure to be here this evening to meet with the taxi operators. I'm familiar with quite a number of you. I've met with you. I've seen you graduate through the classes. And we really are here to serve and, on my level, improve the operations of the Taxi Cab Commissions. I'm going to add that we too are looking forward to making the Virgin Islands a #1 tourism destination, and I know that we are headed in that direction. Between the board and the commission itself, we initiated and we actually produced 84 new taxi operators for the territories. And we are proud of them. In speaking with the association leadership, they are looking forward to working with these new operators, training them, and having them ready to be the frontliners for the tourism industry. And we recognize that that is critical. In addition to that, we are hiring staff to support our new operators, as well as the onboarding of new taxi enforcement officers. And we have actually advertised those positions. So we are proud to say that we are supporting our feet are to the ground, and we are moving forward. So thank you for the vision. We support the vision. On the operational level, we are producing outcomes. So thank you, and we look forward to your questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Executive Director Smith, please give her a hand. Okay, so now we move forward to our next agenda item, which is a discussion and preparation for the upcoming tourism season. What I wanted to do is we're going to couple most of these together. That way we touch on everything. There is information that was available. Before I continue, did you want to say anything on behalf of the Port Authority? No? Okay, very well. So we want to touch on, oh, I apologize. You know, you always have something to say. We love you, we love you. Okay, so I wanted to touch on a few key takeaways, right? And these key takeaways derive from information from Sea Trade and information from the Port Authority's most recent report. Cruise ship arrivals and passenger growth for 2026 is going to be exponential. They are moving into accommodating what is considered to be Icon class vessels. Are any of you familiar with Icon class vessels? Those are those big, super big, cruise, colossal, large, city-like cities on water. So, you know, there is going to be some dredging that's going to be taking place, but the Virgin Islands is moving into accommodating these Icon-class vessels. And that means, obviously, more passengers as well. There's a 286 combined cruise ship calls scheduled for Crown Bay, of which a portion of that is also scheduled for St. John, because they're going to come over here and want to do our tour and experience St. John as well. And St. John's cruise ship passenger arrivals increased from 5,514 in 2023, and as of July 2025, it was, because I'm assuming it's higher now, 8,450, which is a 53% rise in the last 2 years. So that shows that growth is happening. It shows that we need to be ready for this next season. And of course, the accommodation at some given point of these Icon-class vessels will likely bring that number up again. The Port Authority, as mentioned earlier, has gone into agreements with Royal Caribbean and are implementing customer service and safety trainings for taxi drivers and tour operators in St. Croix, as mentioned by Vice President Gittins. But I believe this model can be expanded territory-wide, and meaning that the potential for training should be available to all the islands, which I believe it will be, to include St. John as well. I see tourism wanting to give some input. May I have the media, if there's the floor mic to give to Chairwoman Watley?
Yes, just wanted to mention quickly that the Department of Tourism is going to be implementing some additional trainings. It is one of the investments, as you know, or you may not know. We also we collaborate to deal with the classes with UVI Cell and lend some support in that area. So in addition to the classes that some of you may have taken if you're new, we also want to extend training across the community and specify to taxi as part of that plan to roll out, because we are aware that many of you have already gone through the process of taking the class, and we still want to offer that support in whatever area that we can with the customer service. And even, you know, as we talk about different sources of payment and so forth, maybe that's an area we could help you out, you guys in as well. And so that is one of the things that is going to be rolling out of the Department of Tourism, additional training outside of the regular classes.
And just to add to what Ms. Watley just said, the chairwoman of the Taxi Commission just said, even some of the feedback we've gotten from some of the industry players, and to include, you know, include people who complain to the Taxi Commission as well. We have, I am not saying it happened in St. John, might not happen in St. Thomas, where taxi drivers have picked up people and, you know, really don't know the history of the place and so forth, and carry them all over the place to the wrong location and all kind of thing. And these are people who embarrassing us, for lack of a better words. You know, we have people who've had people in their van, in their car, and talking about, hey, if you really want to see a beautiful place, try Dominica, Mesa, try this place, try that place, and we, the people that are saying, why here in your land? Why not promote your land? So, I mean, some of the people have asked, and when we were in St. Croix, they said, they welcome even a refresher history course, because some of the information we're spewing out there and some of the things that they're saying to the customers is inaccurate, for lack of a better words. And I know it ain't happening to none of you, because I know you're a star. But I'm just saying, for those who may have forgotten or who never had the course, they're opening it up, the department, so we could get on the right track. It's not fair for us to have our passengers here. We're the premier destination, and you advertising for someone else. I am sorry, but Ghana, those days, we have to promote the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, St. John, St. Croix, Water Island. We have to promote our place. So that's some of the things why we urge partner with tourism as well to make sure that these type of things don't continue happening here in the Virgin Island. And I'm so glad that now, thanks to the Office of the Lieutenant Governor, they're getting the GIS system in place. So even a tourist could tell the taxi man, no, according to my tracker, you're wrong. You're carrying me in the wrong place, And it's true, it does happen. We could laugh, but it does happen, and we really need to stop it. And like I said, I know some of the problems in St. Croix is not the same in St. John or in St. Thomas, but we really have to put an end to it. And one of the things I despise is when we have people that come in and give the industry a bad name. You don't treat the customers right, because when the people go out there and say, they don't say the gypsy taxi or whatever, they say the taxi drivers, the taxi man, the taxi women. So all of us get stained.
I would just add that the curriculum that we did present for this course here did include, just as you mentioned, the destinations and educating the taxi drivers on the different form of payment. So they are prepared and they're well aware of the territory, and they have been educated on those areas. And we have a map for Gypsy, and we're working on that as we speak. We do have that.
Okay, thank you so much for your input. And
I'm just to clarify, because that sounded weird. Well, what we mean is we have done this case study to investigate the most prominent areas that we have illegal activity and gypsy in, so that we can target those areas, especially during high frequency of travelers. So it would help you guys to have more enforcement in place. So that's one of the things we've been coordinating with VIPD to make sure that we know the high traffic areas for gypsy in.
thank you for the input. And I just want to reiterate, a one-time visitor does not grow our economy. We have to encourage them to come back. And even if they may not want to come back to one specific island, it's 3 of us out there. You should go St. Croix. St. Croix has a lot of culture and history. They have a lot of different food events and so forth. And then vice versa, go to St. John. St. John is beautiful. It's the most beautiful island. And I'm gonna say that in front of the St. Croix senator so you can know. Okay, so St. John is the most beautiful island. So moving forward, I wanted to also mention that in the Port Authority's report, there is a projection, okay? It's just a projection. However, in that projection, it's projected to rise to 761 cruise ship calls in 2026. That's a lot of more cruise ship calls, and we have to be ready for that. Passenger traffic is up on all 3 islands. The report has, since 2023, we had 1.7 million people from cruise ship calls, and it's projected to jump up upwards of 1.8 million this year, 2025. Okay? What that means for us here on St. John is that we have visitor growth. That means more business for you, more higher ferry transfers from St. Thomas. We need to be ready for that rise in demand because of the larger ships that will be coming to St. Thomas. We also want to encourage you to get into technology. I know that that's something that has been sort of a double-edged sword in some cases, but we want to encourage you to perhaps look at different forms of payment. I mean, because you lose out. We've heard stories. Well, we're speaking to the choir now, but I've heard stories where, and I'm not saying any of you in this room did it, but stories whereas someone would say they don't have cash, meaning a tourist, to a taxi driver, and there's a family of 4, and potentially he or she, the taxi driver, could have made over $80-something to transfer them somewhere, and because they did not take a debit card or ACH or a credit card as a form of payment, that means that taxi driver just lost $80 that could have paid bills or fed his family. So that is something that we have to look at, because there are other forms of transportation that are becoming very prominent. And as many of you already know about rideshare. Rideshare obviously is trying to get into the Virgin Islands. And either we are going to empower our first rideshare taxi industry to be able to empower itself and be able to accept different forms of payment, but that is a discussion that will likely come down the pipeline. That isn't for this evening, but I need you to be think about it and be open-minded about it, because accepting different forms of payments means more money for you and your families. So,
Let me add to that, because that's critical in my opinion. Every time I travel, I don't work with cash. People don't work with cash anymore, so you don't have a choice. It's a business you're running. So you must accept more than one type of payment. That's the bottom line. Because guess what? When you do that, it makes us look like we are a third world country, and we are not. We are a leader in this industry, so we must show who we are and be ready, willing, and able to work with individuals when they come in, because these young people these days, they don't deal with cash. The phone, everything from the phone, the bank account on the phone, the transfer. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. Times are changing, and we must change with the times in terms of business opportunities and growth in your investment, which is your business, which is your taxi. Okay, I just want to add that.
thank you. And one last thing before we continue. I utilize social media for a number of things, and from time to time when I go through my social media feed and so forth, I follow a lot of travel enthusiasts. Sometimes they call themselves travel junkies or whatever. And what they do, they're influencers, and the people who follow them follow what they do, right? And these people travel. I don't know where they're getting the money from, but they travel to all of these destinations. And I've seen about a dozen videos that are related to the Virgin Islands. And I will tell you, 100% of them complained about the fact that they could not pay a taxi with a card or Apple Pay or some sort of electronic form of payment, or a credit card or a debit card. And they also, in some cases, said it was very expensive in comparison to like rideshare and stuff like that, because rideshare, I suppose you could have 4 people flat rate in the same car. You don't have to pay for bags or nothing like that. But this is the system that we have. They're just going to have to deal with that. But the thing is, the complaint derives from the fact that there is no optional form of payment. So I really want you all to open your minds as associations and discuss it with one another and decide if in fact it is time for you all to create another opportunity for these passengers to be able to pay for your services outside of cash. I think it's something that will be beneficial in the long run. Ms. Watley?
Yeah, I hate having to have my back to you guys. I just wanted to double down on what the senator said. One of the things we mandated at Taxi Cab Commission is evolving the industry. And truth be told, you're going to lose out if you don't start to accept another form of payment. It's because everybody else is doing it. Every other destination is doing it already. And I think you're well aware now that we have rides for hire that are being operated in the territory. I know you guys are aware of it. And whether we like it or we don't like it, the thing that's going on is that the senator is right. Most people, when they travel because of safety concerns and convenience, they don't travel with cash. And so we're finding where people may opt to take a ride share because they take cards, right? And while we have to work out the logistics of that and the legitimacy of it, it's happening. So we could either act like it's not going on and lose the business, or we could figure out a way to organize, even if it is that you don't have the skills or the knowledge of it because it's new to us. We as a government will have to support you in figuring that part out, but you're going to lose out, and I don't want it to be a situation where we just age out of a system because we're not willing to conform. And I'm not saying everybody thinks that way, because I've met many taxi drivers who are willing to take a second, payment option. It's just about figuring out how to do it, right? So we have to meet in the middle. We have to figure that part out, but it's definitely something that would make us more competitive. Our neighbors are already doing it. And so I've heard a lot of discussion. You weren't there in St. Croix, but there was an individual who happens to be operating something like a rideshare business, from what he explained. And he did express to us that the reason he even started it was because he couldn't get around the island, right? Because many times, and I know when you work in ship and stuff, you ain't gonna pull off for one person. It just don't make sense, right? So what he decided to do was come up with a business to fill the gap. One or two people wanna go someplace. That's how he explained it to us. I'm just sharing the knowledge with you. But what he said is he wants to pay his fair share. He needs to figure out how to do that. That's why he wasn't hiding. He came to the public and he said that basically he had the technology to share, and he wanted to share it with the taxi drivers. That's what he said. So that's what hit home for me, that he was willing to pay out of his pocket and share it with the taxi drivers. So that might be something. And share the data with the government. That's true. So so here it is. I'm thinking, because we have to pick sense out of nonsense. If we have access to something that could benefit the taxi drivers, it makes sense for us to bring it to the table. You could turn it down, but I'm just saying it's a good idea to have a discussion, find out how we could possibly work it. He even mentioned, and other people in the room also mentioned, putting apps together to help taxi drivers, so that you wouldn't actually have to do the legwork yourself, but somebody could actually assist you with that. So I just wanted to share the information since it was shared with us at the town hall in St. Croix.
Thank you so much. And I think it's important for you all to acknowledge that we are here today, meaning that we're here to discuss with you, to share with you what we have learned, and also to hear what your concerns may be. Because we want to make sure that if in fact something does change, especially in this industry, which is an instrumental industry in our tourism, you are the first and you're the last. You are the representatives that individual sees from the beginning to the end of their trip, and it's an instrumental responsibility that you have representing the Virgin Islands. So we want to make sure that when we have the opportunity to come to you, to speak to you, to share with you what's happening in our space, that we also can hear from you to learn what challenges you're experiencing and what we can do to try to either fix it or meet you halfway when it comes to that, because all problems are not necessarily 100% fixable. Sometimes there has to be deliberation, and we have to meet halfway.
And I'm glad that we're to this part in the agenda, because like I said earlier, yes, I know we had to have this open discussion, but we as a government, and I take the blame too, I shoulder the blame, that we have to put some skin in the game too and make things better for you guys out there too. We keep asking you to police yourself sometime. Yes, I'm glad to hear the director talked about trying to bring on more enforcement officers. It's needed. Because at times you have your disputes, we have these disagreements, and we really need the enforcement out there to settle these disputes with you and a tourist or something, because when they go back, they never see the fair share, the right of the story. They always say their side, which is always the right side for them, but they give us the bad name. Now, at times, they get in your cab, they don't want to pay. For many different reasons, we get in these confrontations. So we have to make sure that we have our enforcement arms out there. VIPD tried their best. I know in St. Thomas, I have to give Officer Mary Luby kudos. That lady worked hard. But I'm giving all the other officers them their kudos, their credit as well, but I know Mary worked very hard. Another thing that I know that we have to work on is the roads. I know Advance Auto Part, Napa, all of them happy to see you guys. So we have to fix the roads, to save your front ends and everything. So we have to put some skin in the game and own some of the responsibilities. I understand. But again, we ask you guys, because they talked about, like I said in St. Croix, the problems is unique over there versus to ours. I like to see our men them here, we do dress up and thing at times. Some days we have a half day, understandable. But the tourists sometimes just don't know who's a taxi operator. And that's just one of the things. In certain areas, I'm not saying in St. John because you're right here located, but like in St. Thomas, in downtown, they ask for like a dispatching center. If, the tourists could go to one place and a taxis be dispatched. All of this, I think, could be assisted through technology as well. But this is where we're having the discussion because one senator, don't have all the answers. So it has to be a collaborative effort. And that's why I lean on you guys tonight, this evening. But I just had to put that out there that the tourist season is coming up. And I think among the associations, you need to get together, plan to go to Sea Trade, but see how you could improve the product that you have. The chairwoman is correct. We're going to sit down here, just like how Blockbuster watch Netflix come in and lose out everything. We have to keep on top of our game, and I don't want that. Taxi drivers is one of the last local business, you and the fishermen them, and I want you to be up to par. I really looking for the best of that. Senator Joseph?
Thank you. I don't want us to leave tonight without one goal that we were able to achieve. The Taxi Cab Commission Board need taxi cab operators as members of the board. They need to have your voice at the table. So that's a process, and I really think that especially the leadership of the various taxi associations, you need to make a cognizant effort, make an intentional effort to give one of us your information. The Assistant Commissioner of Tourism is here, and the chairwoman. Also, we are here, but you really need to have additional members and taxi operators especially there to represent you and your issues on the Taxi Cab Commission Board, because you, again, are vital to this industry. And it takes a mixture of inclusion to be able to understand the very essence and the diversity and all the work that goes into this major industry. And so I want to encourage you, those of you who are in leadership positions, those who are taxi operators, veteran taxi operators, to take that leap and become a member of the Taxi Cab Commission Board, because they really need some people who are committed. Right, Senator Carmen Wesselhoff? Right? Yes, you need some people who are committed, who understand the industry, who have a vested interest, and who can speak to the tax for on behalf of the taxi cab men and women on that board. You have to be in the mix. And that's one of the things I really want to urge to come out from this meeting tonight, that you get some representation from the taxi cab operators and the Taxi Cab Commission Board.
Yeah, I do agree Right now, the majority of the members on the board are taxi operators. I just wanted to clarify that. But you are correct. You have to be vested. And this is why I'm so happy about this event this evening, because I find historically we have been talking at taxi drivers and not including you all in the conversation. So you might see a legislation come down something, and then that's the first time you're hearing about it. So we're taking a different angle. It doesn't make sense to tell subject experts how to do your own job. What we do is we want to support you in being good at what you do, because you're good at what you do. Nobody can tell a taxi driver. You know, I've never been a taxi operator. So I always welcome the conversation, because it's important to know from the ground level what's going on and what we could do to improve. We know that we have a lot of issues that we need to address. Gypsying is a very big one. And that's why while you're here, you could ask the legislature to give us a little more funding so we could get some more officers. This is a collaborative effort. Yeah, we need some more funding. However, we're going to work with what we have. That's what we've been doing. And so VIPD lending us some assistance, DLCA. It's a collaborative effort all around to make sure that we make this thing work. But one of the things I wanted to mention, since Senator Bulkis spoke about influencers, is that we actually have an influencer right now in the territory that has over 1 million followers. And he has been vlogging throughout his stay, talking very highly of the territory. And so I just want you to be aware that this isn't a one-off thing. These people come all the time. And one bad experience could change the whole dynamic of our territory. Like I said, we're competing. And so it's not just about being a tourist destination, but we always have to be on our A game, because you never know who's in the room. You don't know. This man has so much followers. I follow him and I didn't even know. And what I mean by followers is that he puts content out on social media, on the internet, and he has over 1 million people checking what he does every day. So that could drastically impact us. So, and this is a regular thing. And in addition to that, we also, in the Department of Tourism, we bring in influencers to experience our territory and go back and spread the good news. So we always have to be conscious of who we are dealing with in the territory.
So thank you for that input, Assistant Commissioner. You know, as I sit here, I was just taking some notes, because this is a big, big topic. And one of the things that we haven't discussed is transportation for even our local people in the territory. It's not just the tourists who come in here. So individuals also depend on your services. But I wrote down a couple of things here, and I hope I could understand what I wrote down quickly, because as we prepare for the upcoming tourist season, as the Senator at large spoke about these mega ships that's being built and the increased number of cruise passengers, one of the things that we need to look at is the visitor volume and scheduling. And with that, we need to look at the peak traffic days and coordinating with the Virgin Islands Port Authority. We need to look at some staggered pick-up and drop-off times to ease congestion, especially in the St. Thomas, St. John district. Also, we'll need to coordinate with the Virgin Islands Police Department when it comes to traffic management and routing. We need to look at alternative routes to avoid the bottlenecks that we see. And based on that briefing that we got the other day, once this partnership really comes into play, especially here in the St. Thomas, St. John district, it's going to really be booming. It is something that we really have to planned for. We also need to look at our customer service standards with regards to refresher training and professionalism and hospitality. We had some concerns about that as well when we met with the cruise line executives. We need to have clear communication practices with regards to greetings, pricing, and directions. Also, safety compliance, again, coming back to public safety, and also getting the taxi cab commission officers back up to its number. We need to look at vehicle safety checks and inspections. We need to have proper signage in the downtown areas, establishing zones, etc. Public health protocols and emergency procedures and contact information sharing for these passengers. Also, we need to look at the pricing transparency that we spoke about, enforcement of published taxi rates, and reestablishing a clear rate chart that's supposed to be within your vehicles. Also, you heard about the technology integration. Technology seemed to be running a lot of us. I could remember, bless my mom's soul, but I could remember just before she retired from the Department of Health, when she came home one day frustrated and saying, "My son, these people with this computer thing pushing on me, I ain't into that. At my age, it's time for me to go home." And she talked about being able to, in a heartbeat, just go and change a ribbon in the typewriter and being able to type a GTR. She ain't got no time to wait with this technology. But I say that to say that today, technology is what it is. So we need to get on board. We need to get on board, otherwise we're going to get left behind. As you heard from Senator Joseph earlier, the Virgin Islands, there's something about us. They're looking at us. The Virgin Islands is where passengers are saying that they want to come. Believe it or not. And this is feedback from the cruise passengers. So again, in the technology integration, we need to encourage the digital payment options, the use of dispatch apps or ride coordination platforms, and address our infrastructure needs. I think the Senate Secretary, Senator Lewis, spoke to that, about our roads and whatnot. We even spoke about that. We've already carved out in the budget where there'll be addressing certain areas that's really bad with our roads. We need to establish taxi stands. We need to improve signage. We need to have restrooms, not only for passengers, but even the taxi drivers. You know how it looked to see a taxi driver pull on the side of the road to do the business? I mean, that we have seen. I saw it just the other day. So, I mean, when you say one, you say two. Maybe you really had to go. So we need to, as a government, we need to look at this and have these areas. And lastly, I'm also looking at the environment and cultural awareness with regards to anti-litter campaigns and educating visitors on island customs, etiquette, and local highlights. All right? We also need to work with the Department of Education and the Department of Planning and Natural Resources. We have 2 forts that's under our local government control. The one in Christiansted is under federal control. So you have the one in Frederiksted, you have the one here in St. Thomas, Fort Christian. Why we don't have reenactment going on within the forts? We could utilize our students to do these reenactments. This is a revenue-generating measure and something for our students to be involved in constructively. So hopefully these set of town hall meetings will start the ball rolling, and we'll have a snowball where we just create that big ball that we need to have so that we could be ready for when this boom comes to the territory. Thank you all again. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you all too, because I'm hearing a lot from us, but I really want to take some notes and hear from some of the taxi drivers that's in here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice President Gittins. And we have went through plans in your agendas. We've went through the plans for sufficient transportation. We've touched on upgrades to current operations. We've touched on preparations for increased visitor volume and payment options for passengers. And we also Senator Gittins went through some of the customer service enhancement details that he spoke of as well. But I wanted to touch on one more item in the area of customer service enhancement before we proceed to the last agenda item before closing remarks. And I wanted to touch on a number of things in that area before opening the floor for open discussion. Okay, I apologize. So we are here because tourism is a large part of our GDP. Our gross domestic profit. Tourism is what keeps our Virgin Islands going. There's other things that help, but obviously predominantly tourism is how we keep things going here in the Virgin Islands. So you are the stakeholders, you are the leaders of tourism. You have your role and responsibility to play, and we want to make sure that when we talk about customer service enhancement, we are simply expressing to you respectfully to continue to do what you do to the best of your ability. Promote the Virgin Islands, support our culture, push our music, our entertainment, our food, all of those things. And I wanted to touch on something. I'm not going to call any names, not South, but there was a video that I saw recently. Do not call any names, but it seemed as if a tourist may have called a taxi driver the N-word. Do you all know what I'm talking about? Okay. I saw that video, and I didn't like it. I can understand the reaction because it's a very derogatory, disrespectful term, you know. But I want to encourage you. I know that sometimes in life, things like that may come knocking at your door, and sometimes we gotta be the bigger person. And I'm not blaming that individual. I'm not. Okay, I do not blame him, but I'm just saying that came out and is out there, right? So all of our actions have a reaction, right? So now, some people may have not understood what happened by looking at that video and looked at it from the other side, right? And it just may look like, why is this taxi driver going on like this with this gentleman? You know, they may look at it or may not have heard or, you know, so I encourage you to, you know, be the bigger person. There were different ways to handle that, but I understand what happened. I understand how impactful a term like that can be when somebody says it. It's happened to me when I used to live in Georgia, you know. So I've been on the other receiving end of that. So you know, but these things happen, and a lot of people do not know what taxi drivers have to go through, you know, every day. You have to deal with passengers. You got to take care of them. They're like your children. You know, you want to make sure they're safe. No, don't go on that side of the road. We're on the left. Go on that side. You know, so you taking care of them. You are the caretaker of this individual when you have them in your possession. So we understand that, you know. But for those who may want to say negative things, let's be the bigger person, you know. So I wanted to at least just say that and bring that out. One thing that was mentioned in the St. Croix Taxi Town Hall that I am very proud to report is that we spoke about having structure, you know, and I was able to, at that point in time, talk about the numbering system that exists here on the island of St. John. There was a gentleman from a taxi association that in St. Croix, he was an elder, And he was talking about back in the days how they used to do it, but it's different now. It's a lottery system, they used to call it. But I was able to express how we do things here on St. John, and they all agreed that, you know, the numbering system is something that they believe would be a good structure because it's, I don't want to say free for all. I think everybody's sort of independently just going and dropping off, picking up, and it sort of gets confusing at times, and it could be a bit problematic, you know, but I believe, you know, as we continue to have these discussions, we'll be able to encourage them to adapt similar lottery systems or numbering systems such as we have here on St. John. So I thank the chairman for letting me have that input at the time when we were having that meeting. So the last thing was that for this section. And now we're going to move into the open discussions, hearing from you. What we would like to do is media can just provide the microphone in a stationary section where the individual could just get up and stand up with the sergeant of arms. If they want to come over here in this section, or do you prefer to sit, whatever works for you. But if you prefer to come up and speak, that's fine. We can bring the mic to you, or if you prefer to come up and speak, whatever is easiest. Okay. So if there isn't any questions right now, if there's any additional information from Department of Tourism or Taxi Cab Commission, okay, we do have a question.
All the mouth eye that be talking on this St. John, get up here and speak. Okay? All right.
The chief has spoken. Please state your name. Please state your name, and if you're with our organization, please state that as well. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick A. Hendrickson Sr. I'm a taxi driver for 20 plus years. I'm with the St. John Taxi Service. I'm listening to the young lady here in the black for basically, you say you have 286 ships coming to St. Thomas, St. John. I remember back in my days when I used a taxi, every Wednesday we had a Norway come right out of the harbor on this side, and we'll bring the people in. They'll go on tours, independent, prepaid. When they finish, they have a ferry from TS or Balak. We take them back to St. Thomas, and then we'll go down to St. Thomas. To ease some of that traffic going on with all these ships, why don't you send one of those ships over in the same area, and a son can anchor over here because National Park. When they send to the same area, and have them come into, by boat, come into the National Park area, and going towards the beach strip, whatever. That will ease some of the traffic over there, and we in St. John will also get a fair chance of some of those big mega ships I'm talking about. Let St. John make some money too.
Mr. Patrick, just one thing I want to add, right? When they said the 286 ships, that was to Crown Bay. And then we have 362 to Waiko. So it's a total over 500 and change, and 113 will be called on St. Croix. St. John? 80. 80. 80 or 81 or something. Yeah.
80. Port Authority has 80 for 2026 to St. John. 80.
So where would these ships be unloading these passengers?
Well, the ships cannot come up to the dock, so they would have to have a vessel that would transport. But Port Authority is here, we can have them respond.
Good evening, all. Starting October 27th, you'll have your first ship call for Cruise Bay St. John. And of course, they come into the creek.
Okay, that sounds good.
They'll
That's what I'm
disembark,
talking
and
about.
Most ships come from 8 till 6 p.m. Most of the cars will be from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And today. It all depends on the size of the ship. Some of them is under 100, some over 100. First for the boutique ships, and then like you stated, those going to Waiko and Crown Bay also have the day excursions that come into the same creek also.
Okay, but back in the days, we had a Norway coming on the side. They had about 2,500 passengers. They tended them in. And why can't we get some of the mega ship back out there and then have them tended in and then go to St. Thomas?
Well, my brother, the senators, talk about going to sea trade and you guys stepping up and offering something that make the ships want to come to St. John. Because the ships will request. You know, right now we have a big demand, a big request. Right now we're doing some more bathymetrics for the waterways between here and St. John that maybe some might ask, but you got to offer them something to come for.
Right. So the reason why I'm saying this is because most of the time the passengers come off on St. Thomas and said, the taxi driver in St. Thomas said that ain't nothing to do on St. John. We got the #1 beach here, Trunk Bay. You know, we got Maho Bay and we also got Honeymoon Beach. These are popular beaches out there right now. So you can tell the people they have nothing in St. John to do. It's beautiful in St. John. What he said then?
You know, Mr. Patrick, that's what I talk about us talking down our country. Now, we're talking down one island to the other island. Now, we have to big up our products. You know, no taxi driver, no place should be talking about none of the islands. I mean, a negative light. We need to promote. So if they don't want to stay in St. Thomas, fair. But you could go St. John, go to Trong Bay, go to what I want the government own, Oppenheimer, whatever the case may be. Promote St. John. Promote the cuisine, you know.
And I wanted to also touch one more time on the importance, and I believe my colleagues and we've been trying to echo that sentiment over and over. Sea Trade Global Tour, Conference, I apologize, is an opportunity for the heads of your associations to go up there and network and be able to get direct bookings for your associations. Not waiting until Global Tours or one of these other companies calls up the association to say, we have 100 people coming over on this date. I believe that you can empower yourselves to be able to access that market, but you have to invest in yourselves as well. It's a business venture. And when you're able to go to these conferences, and we keep saying Sea Trade because it's the largest one in the world, and it covers the Atlantic, the Pacific, transatlantic, Caribbean, the whole entire world. And if we're able to get you to come up there, you'll be able to come with your packages, meet the heads of different divisions of these cruise ship liner companies, and provide a package to them, speak to them, have meetings. This is what happens when the Commissioner of Tourism and their teams go up there. They market the Virgin Islands to these cruise ship entities. And of course, as mentioned prior, there are individuals from taxi associations across the Caribbean that attend this conference, except, unfortunately, for us. So we're here trying to encourage you now to be able to be a part of this discussion.
And in addition to what Senator Boquist says, they're going to take it more seriously. That's very important also.
Also, the one destination that went skyrocketing ahead of St. Thomas was St. Martin. And you know who is well represented at Sea Trade Global? Those taxi drivers from St. Martin. The same taxi drivers were ringing our ears, meeting with us, saying, listen, let me show you all this. This is how we're moving passengers around now with the same technology that Assistant Commissioner Hansen was talking about. This is why we say you got to get on board. And when they started to show us some of the technology that they're using and saying, listen, we don't want to take anything from y'all. No, we wouldn't even mind coming to the Virgin Islands to show and teach your taxi drivers how far this could take the industry. Not even knowing that the same gentleman that she spoke about on St. Croix, when he started to say what he was doing, I sat there and I was like, wow, this is just about the same thing that these guys from St. Martin were talking about. So we don't even have to go any place else for anybody to teach us this. What I really liked what he was saying was when he was talking about all the data that he was actually putting together, and the assistant commissioner was right. He actually said, listen, I want to pay my fair share. Whatever you want to charge me, you charge me. Because I could see that this is a lucrative business, and it is something that's needed. And he asked the question, he said, you know what? When it comes to people being discharged from the hospital at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, who coming to pick them up? It's me that calling. When people want to move in a group from the hotel to a restaurant, they just last minute decide that they want to go. Who they gonna call? I mean, as I sat there and I thought about it, even when I came off the seaplane the other day from St. Thomas to St. Croix, there was absolutely no taxi drivers there. I personally had to take 2 couples to the airport to get a rental car. Now I was going right to my office in Christiansted, but I took them down to get it because nobody could have even tell you a contact number. And the first thing I did was I drove downtown to see if I could see a taxi driver. So I say that to say that we got to get on board with this. So I'm telling you, Sea Trade Global, when they're saying that we're just going, they ain't no junket. I'm telling you, I know my colleagues and I, when we go, we have meeting after meeting after meeting. And to the gentleman in the back, we're telling you, unless you're there to be able to show them that you have the product that they're looking for, because what they look at is the passenger feedback. And if their complaints are ground transportation and the lack of excursions. So we have to, if we want to stay competitive in the market, we need to pull up our socks in those 2 categories.
I want you to, we've been talking about promoting you and working with you and partnering with you to attend Sea Trade Global. The dates, note the dates for 2026. That's a critical item that we need to make sure you're aware of. The dates are April 13th through the 16th, 2026. And it's going to be held in the Miami Beach Convention Center, Miami Beach. You could pull it up on Google and you see it's there. And that's a critical component. I know former Senator Carmen Wesselhoff, you wanted to make a comment. Kindly proceed.
I have a lot of questions. Good evening. Thank you. Carmen Wesselhoff, Hedgerington. Before I talk on the taxi matter tonight, I must put on the record that last week, Monday, October 6th, there was a very important meeting held in this chamber with the Virgin Islands Port Authority to discuss fee increases for St. John, especially for St. John, and not one of you senators came. And that meeting was very important. So I just wanted to put on the record, I'm very disappointed that none of you all, not one of the 15 senators attended. I must put that on the record.
I will clarify because I was online for the entire meeting. But
We wanted you here in person, but at least you're online. Thank you. To get started, you started out speaking about the national park. Here we are again. You said we are exempted until 2026, exempted from what, the 3%?
no, I was able to work with my office, and we had several meetings with the National Park Service, with Penelope Delbene, who is the superintendent, and her team, and we were able to secure the current exemption up until December 31st, 2025. On September 29th, my office and I met with her, and we discussed the very same CUA, which is the Commercial Authorization So we talked about the expiration, which is upcoming at that time. We were like, it's like almost 90 days. It's going to be coming up again. This is going to be a burden for the drivers. The taxi drivers of St. John are in a very unique position in comparison to other national park districts, which we have a medallion system. These taxi drivers, whoever they are that work within other parks throughout the nation, do not have a unique system like we do. We have all of these different fees that associated with becoming a driver. We have a very vigorous process. We are required to learn Virgin Islands history to be a taxi driver here.
So
these are not requisites, but I'm trying to explain. These are not requisites that other taxi drivers across the nation have to adhere to. So we spoke with her during that meeting, and she verbally agreed to apply for the extension of the exemption for 2026. Again, that's a verbal agreement, but we will continue to have discussions with her and her office to be able to try to extend that moving forward. But that is something that is applied across the United States of America, and they have tried to implement it here. Thankfully, we have the exemption, but I want to try to continue to extend it. That is not something I, as a local Virgin Islands senator, can change. That is something that has to be changed on the national level. So I am not the representative who deals with those matters, but my office has reached out to their office in reference to that issue, and we'll continue to try to fight that effort.
I'm hearing you, but I'm still lost. Exemption from what? Because we paid the $350 already. We already paid the $350. We couldn't operate unless we paid that $350, even though it was, 6 months left in the year? We still had to pay that $350. The only thing that they delayed was the 3%. When you met with them originally, they said they would delay that until 2026. That's the only thing that was delayed, but the members still had to pay that $350, so there wasn't any exemption. The 3% is what needs to be spoken about, because we still want to know what gives the national park the right to charge us 3%. That's a tax. We already pay income tax. We already pay taxes. So that's the only thing that needs to be discussed. We already paid, we went from $75 to $350. We already paid that. So there is no exemption.
So the commercial utility...
That's the CUA, the 350.
The 3%, the 350 is a requirement. The tax is exempted, to be clear. The 3% that we receive that exemption for is something that you don't have to pay right now. We want to extend that. That is the most problematic part of that whole situation. Because before, I believe you all only paid $75, then it went up to $350. Is that correct? Correct. Okay. So we were not able to change that recourse in the sense of trying to get it back to 75 or maybe 100 or 200. They stood strong on that. They wanted to make sure or assure that it was 350. What we were able to do is get that exemption from the 3%. So, okay. and we want to continue to have that exemption extended into 2026.
We want it to continue forever. We should not be paying 3%. It's a tax. Bottom line. I'm not finished, Mr. Hodge, I'm sorry.
If I may really quickly before you ask your question, drivers in St. Croix or St. Thomas don't have to adhere to that. It's only St. John taxi drivers.
Correct. And St. John is a very unique place where the local government own the rights, the roads that we are riding on, and we are taking business to the park. Without us, basically, there is no park. We are the ones that's bringing the business to the park. We are riding on the government roads through the park, roads that the national park's supposed to maintain, and they're not even doing a very good job of that. Drive it right now for yourself. We have to complain in order to even get them to clear the roads. There's heavy overgrowth on the roads right now. And unless we have to call sometime and tell them our passengers getting hit in their face with the branches, that's when they go out and cut the bush. So that's what's going on. Take a ride for yourself right now, you'll see it. So we need to be totally exempted from that 3%. That's an illegal charge.
We'll continue the effort to try to extend that in 2026. Again, we had a verbal commitment from the superintendent that she will formally apply to the Department of Interior to request an additional extension or the continuation thereof into 2026?
The National Park plays a lot of games. First, they say they can't, and then they said they were the ones that made the decision. Sometimes they make it seem like it comes from Washington, but a lot of us feel that the Friends of the Park is a big influence over this Virgin Islands National Park that makes the decisions for us. They could make some of those decisions right here in St. John. It's not Washington, it's the park.
You just said it's an illegal action. Is it illegal or unfair to you?
We feel it's illegal.
Well, if it's illegal, then you know the route that you need to take if something is illegal, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But if we're going to say it's illegal, then we need to do what we have to do and take it to court.
Well, we want the senator's support on it. Moving right along. Sorry. Are you finished, Senator? Secondly, I'd like to speak about the Taxi Cab Commission. I think it's high time. We all know that the Taxi Cab Commission have been struggling over the years. We have been knocking down, beating down. Seems to me like we were trying to do away with the Taxi Cab Commission. I think it's time that the senators find a way to continue to help supporting, giving them the financial wherewithal so that they could get the proper staffing and upgrade their systems and bring the Taxi Commission into the 2026th century, into this century. Years ago, we could go up to the battery and obtain our taxi license. Now we can't, we have to go down all the way to subbase every time we need to get documents. I think it's time that it be brought up to date where they can come to St. John, jump on the computer, find my files, and do what they need to do for us right here on the island of St. John. Please give them the necessary fundings so that they could upgrade.
Thank you, Senator Wesselhoff, for your comment. We definitely share the same sentiments at the Taxi Cab Commission. Even with our small staff, we have looked at unique ways of trying to accommodate, in particular, the St. John community. We've discussed the uploading of files, sharing communications that way through emails. I briefly discussed with the administrator the idea of now coming back to St. John and offering those hands-on services. But we do need the funding. It's funding that drives travel. It's funding that drives upgrades. So we really do need this, the support of the senators. We asked for funding with ideas and plans in mind. We studied these ideas. We look forward to implementing them, and we know that we can do it. And we look forward to improving the services. We have been in brief discussions with BIT. We've tossed the idea around of different operating tools, and we really look forward to improving the Taxi Cab Commission, and we can do it. One example is my staff, we're looking forward to training. We're doing some computer training, and like I said, we're in-house, we're utilizing, and we started with St. Croix as an example. We're moving from hand receipts to now electronic receipts. We need our computers to be upgraded to support it. Oh, sorry, I have a bad habit of relaxing my wrist. So in St. Croix, we've actually started utilizing electronic payments and gradually moving our staff from the paper system. So we've started that in St. Croix. To expand that now to communicate with BMV real time, we need to upgrade our computers. And it's something that we look at as a simple fix, because we are the new generation. We have a mixed generation at Taxi Cab. We have our millennials. We have us who want to move forward with the times and be trendy as well. So we really need the funding.
We're not going to keep you much longer. I know you have more to say.
Just have a couple more
yes,
points.
Yes, I know you have more to say. But long story short is, I think that everybody knows we need the funding. We have 3 staff members at the Taxi Cab territorially. So again, we're just asking the legislature to support us in that way. We know that we have to evolve. The budget is the same budget. The budget didn't change. We ain't beating down the legislature. What we're saying is collectively, we need the support. And I think everybody in the room understands that. We need more staffing so that we could offer more services. That we're just being real about it. But thank you so much for acknowledging the hard work, given the, needed support. We appreciate that.
To Senator Joseph, I just want to let you know it's ironic that you mentioned the board. From 2022, I spoke with the governor and asked that I be a member on the Taxi Commission Board from 2022. I'm still waiting. I spoke with Toya Malone. I spoke with Colette Monroe. I spoke with everyone, but still haven't gotten any answers. So I just wanted to let you know it's ironic you looked at me, but I did request to be on that board because I do have a vested interest. Yeah, divine intervention. Also, the payment plan option is very difficult in St. John. After you leave Cruise Bay, you have no service. A lot of the drivers, they have Venmo, they have Zelle. Some have already gotten credit card machines, but it's very hard after you leave Cruise Bay. You cannot get any signal. Sometimes you can't even make a phone call in the case of an emergency. So that's, we're looking into it as an option, but it's very hard. So just wanted to put that on the record. And lastly, last thing before I sit down, this ride share. Y'all talking about it because it's a good thing. It's something that y'all say need to happen or it's filling a gap. But what's troubling to me is why is it so easy for them to be out there operating and there is no penalties, or how are they able to operate? I remember having a conversation with Horace Graham and licensing. And the only way they could be able to operate is because of the type of license they obtained through licensing. And I requested that they remove that license so that they cannot obtain that license for a time certain until we could get some kind of handle or control on all these illegal drivers that we have driving. We have these Jeeps, and I've sent pictures to certain people where you have these, what do you call them?
Jeep tours.
Jeep tours. We have to, you're talking about our attire? I took some pictures where the guys jump out bare feet, short pants, and they come dressed anyhow. They charge $350 for a tour. Our tour is $35, no regulation. Who is regulating them? What requirements do they have to be able to be out there, even providing this service? So we're talking about it.
These are the things we need to hear.
You're talking about it, but they need to be shut down as long as you know it exists. Some way, somehow, you have to find a way to shut them down. The taxi drivers have invested too much in taxi medallions. We have to do course. We have to pay a business license. We have to pay for everything. They pay $20, maybe $100 for a license, and they're charging higher fees than us and getting away with it. Some way, somehow, like between licensing, the taxi commission, the legislature, the police department, whoever, somebody needs to start shutting down these businesses, because if you don't start now, it's only going to get worse. Thank you.
Yeah. Just wanted to get back to the right here. So in our law already, there's something called, oh God, now we're going to slip me at this time. And I'm saying it all night. Vehicle for hire, that already exists in our law. The thing is, I agree with you. The distinction needs to be had because we don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is going on all over the world. The thing is, in the Virgin Islands, we have not clearly defined everybody's role. In my research, ride shares are vehicles for hire. However, there's been we've been pushing it to the legislature, DLCA, Taxi Commission, and we need to just clarify what it is. And then we could regulate, because there needs to be regulation. And this is why I mentioned it. Because if we know that something is actively taking place and there are loopholes, let's just be clear about it. You just said they have a license through DLCA. So it's not that they're really operating an illegal business. That's one. Secondly, what we need to do is clarify so that we know how to regulate. Because I agree, there's some people operating under tour license, are doing other things that taxiing. There are people operating with limousine licenses that are taxiing. So while we're in this space, we have to be aware of everything that's taking place. And that's why we want to come to taxi drivers, because we know you'll see it before we see it. But one of the things that we're lacking and we need to do is enforcement. That's number one. But we also need a clear identifier so that it's not a vague thing. In other districts, things like Uber, which is what we call rideshare, exists, right, in Puerto Rico and everywhere else. Even in the Caribbean, they just are under different names. But you can't regulate something that we don't clearly define. And that's where we as a government and the government agencies need to step up and put in the guidelines. For instance, example would be if a rideshare takes 4 people, right? They pick up 4 people. Then what you could do, if we have it in mind that they might use a SUV or a car for 4 people, that they're restricted to just 4 people. They can't take any more than 4 or 2 or whatever the number is, as an example. So what I am saying is that while it's there in the law as vehicles for hire, if we want to regulate something, we have to stipulate what it is. Because there are people using loopholes to run all these outside businesses, and we are seeing it, but it's hard to regulate it when we don't have anything in writing to say, this is what you're doing wrong. And just for more information, the guy in St. Croix, he told us that he pays fines to DLCA. So they've been collecting money from him he gets charged regularly, and he's not the only one. There's another company as well. So they're paying fines. But again, we need clarity so that everybody understands the distinction of what type of transportation it is.
Yeah, go ahead.
Proceed.
Okay, yeah. I have to stand up, sucking the stomach. That's a little joke. Good evening, everybody. Okay, so there are a number of good points was made here tonight. Taxi drivers out. Huh? Oh, Stephen Hatch Jr. Thank you. Yeah. So we are the ambassadors, and I'm really happy to have just recently came to the taxi and tour operator class as well. But being in the class, really discovered a number of different things and a lot of the disconnects, okay? So I reached out to Ms. Smith in reference to where I actually created that textbook. We were in a class and there was no textbook, okay? So eventually we're gonna connect and she'll see what the textbook looked like, including chapter 1. That would also eventually include the VI history and everything else. But when we talk about training, okay, Port Authority and Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines is gonna be providing training for taxi drivers as relates to safety, etc. But here we have the Taxi Commission, okay? So when we talk about monetizing an agency so they can generate revenues through surcharges and other different fees that will cover their operation and also benefits the government for the general fund, okay? They can be driving that narrative with a partnership with the police department. Ain't nobody else that are better trainers when it comes to driver safety, okay? Me as a soldier in National Guard, I'm a detective in the military police investigator. Okay, so when we do our local training and driver trainings, guess who we work with closely and trains us? The VIPD, okay? We can monetize them. So when we talk about also going into the ride share, we call it ride share, Uber, all of them, the Taxi Commission. Okay, they're the ones who are going to create the policies along with the board. Okay, guess what? Surcharges, fees, operations again, and guess what? The government benefits with, of course, funding going into their general fund. So, yeah, but, yeah. So, I'm really sharing that to say. So now I truly have a vested interest. and I really understand the dynamic and just being in the class. And the class was a great class, okay, where we learned everything from driver safety, customer service, the same disconnects, and everything else that was discussed here this evening. It's imperative that we have the right things in place to make it happen, okay? And I ain't gonna talk no more, but
Excellent, former senator. And with your input as well, we'll invite you to be a part of the task force as well. So be sure to contact my office so that we can get with you. All right? Any other taxi drivers before we wrap it up?
Good night, everyone. Marvin Smith, Eastern Taxi. I mean, I know I gotta be down in St. Thomas tomorrow, so I gotta share a lot more of what it is I have to say. But I was just listening to the assistant commissioner and the chairperson of the board of the taxi board. And he was talking in reference to the share ride. According to what it is I understand, this is supposed to be the laws and the books. And for what it is you just said, with them getting them license under DLCA, and they could come in according to what this here say. After October 30th, 1978, no person, company, corporation, or partnership may register an automobile for hire or purchase license plates, therefore, or own an automobile for hire enterprise within the Virgin Islands who has not first obtained an automobile for hire automobile medallion for purpose by this description. And it also goes on to tell you what an automobile for hire is. So the laws are there, the laws are clear. There is no way, other than these laws being changed, anybody could come and operate a vehicle for hire unless they obtain a medallion and a license through the Taxi Cab Commission. Now, what I feel you all should be doing is siding with the taxi industry, with the taxi drivers themselves, to try to bring revenues to your coffers to obtain all these, because every vehicle for hire is supposed to be under your purview.
To include taxi.
To include taxi.
I mean, to include limousines.
I'll get into that.
That was pulled out.
I am getting to that.
Pulled out from there.
The limo.
So, one second. So I just said that to let you know, Mr. Smith, that we definitely are looking into that, and we've already identified the problem, and the problem where we're falling short is enforcement. And we will be working with the Taxi Cab Commission to see how we could assist them outside of the budget that we just passed to make sure that they're able to hire the individuals that they need.
Thank you for that, but the Taxi Cab Commission is bleeding because of this act that was sneaked in when they was given out in 2012, when they was giving out franchise agreement to the different taxi organization. This was sneaking. It was never lit. We never did had any kind of session on it. We did took out limousine from under the Taxi Cab Commission and made them. There is no place in the. I have Googled it all over. There is no place in the United States that says a limousine is not a vehicle for hire. Only in this U.S. Virgin Islands, and these men are running shuttle service back and forth, up and down, and taxi and a thing. And it's taking away revenues from the Taxi Cab Commission because guess what? They are putting down their taxi medallions and they are registering as a limousine and they're doing the same work. You all have your smartphone. Go on it now. Look at red car USVI. Look at it right now. Look it up. Tell me if that's a limousine service. Tell me if that's a limousine. Look at it. Oh my God. Look. These, and as far as as far as collecting different types of payment, I can only speak for my organization. We do collect credit cards. I, as the president of the organization, what we did, we tell all the drivers to try and obtain some kind of form of payment. Me, myself, I do Zelle, I do Venmo, but what we did as an organization, anybody come on our stand that needs to pay by credit card, we have a credit card machine in the office. So if a driver cannot collect credit card, his thing is to talk to that passenger, take them in the office, do the charge, we will pay them after. So there is no, and any driver that comes, any passenger that comes there and tell me that my driver said that they can't collect credit card, he got to deal with me. So that there is thinking. And as far as your rideshare app, I just pay attention and I just try to upgrade and keep our organization up to date. That person who, whatever other company trying to come in under the class of rideshare, we don't need them. We have already started our digital app. And this is going to be tailored to taxi, and it's going to be tailored to the tariff. So whenever we will be there to take over wherever the app is filling, it's just about finish. Within the next week, it will be done.
And Mr. Smith, this is exactly what we want to hear from you. So listen, I am proud to hear that tonight, because we don't want to take anything away. This ride share thing all of a sudden got out of hand with the conversation. But we want to hear from you guys. We want to be able to support the taxi industry. That's why we having these town hall meetings, so that we could see how to better assist you guys who are organized and those who we need to get even more organized, or as organized as your organization. So hats off to your organization now with showing us that you're on the road with that app.
We're ready to operate.
And hopefully the other associations across the territory will be able to get up on board.
We don't even need, don't not mean to cut you off, but we don't even need other organization, even if they don't want to. How this app is designed, any licensed taxi operator driver will be able to incorporate in it. So if I want to put all of VI, all of Best, all of St. Thomas Taxi, even St. John Taxi Service, even St. Croix Taxi, a touch of the button, my app could take you to St. Croix, and we could cover the whole Virgin Islands.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. So another individual that we want to be a part of the task force as well. But let's hear from the taxi drivers, because we want to wrap this up, so that because some people are trying to catch the 8 o'clock boat. So.
I don't understand why is it. Sorry, Yvette Stapleton, no taxi driver. But the meeting and the schedule that went out, it said 5:30 to 8:30. The other classes that are being offered to enhance the older taxi drivers, are they going to be mandatory?
At this point, we're still working through it. It's not mandatory at this time. However, we'll have to work with the Taxi Cab Commission, but we do want to implement something that would elevate the standard and maintain it.
Also, so for my class, we weren't able to get the regulation section because of an audio problem. So that's why I was asking if it would be mandatory, because we took the class. And when I asked for it to be offered at another time, we still haven't gotten any word on that? Because there were a lot of questions coming from that class.
I'm just going to clarify that I'm aware of the audio issues that occurred, particularly for the St. John district. Another time was offered, but it was not conducive. So the regulations portion was actually recorded. However, we did discuss with the instructor that moving forward, that portion of the class would be done in person because the audio, that glitch was an unexpected glitch. So we are working on correcting that, and we are going to support. We did offer the audio version. I'm not sure if all of the students received it because it was worked through UVI cell, but we would work with you to provide additional information to you. You're welcome.
Because I needed that class. Senator Gittins gone. I don't know if one of you could answer it, but the 3% that he was speaking about, well, actually, he was speaking about the rates and offering the correct rates for the taxi drivers offering different rates. But with the digital, I know it was before the Senate, that 3% that different businesses were offering and someone was trying to get it. Is it something that can be offered on the taxi driver side?
So, thank you for that. I think what you're talking about when you pay with a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
So we worked it out with licensing and if you're paying with your debit card, that's coming from your bank. So that your bank account. So that should not be charged the 3%. What the individuals are charging you, the 3% is a transactional fee they're claiming when you use your credit card, not your debit card. So that's standard. So and what happened is like a lot of the machines, not so much from the banks, like Banco Popular and Oriental and First Bank, but those who have those outside, what the thing named locks, what the machine, Salty Locks, and those other entities, they charge you that at 3%. But licensing is aware of it, and they're saying to you, if you're overcharged at 3%, paying with your debit card, you could come back to them and they'll make sure that you get back your money as well. But to say if it goes to the taxi side or not, that's something I'd have to ask with the commissioner or even the deputy. I don't know if she could answer that one tonight, but the commissioner, Natalie Hodge, will definitely be in St. Thomas tomorrow, and I definitely have an answer, and this will be televised as well too.
Okay. One other thing, in 2022, I paid for the taxi class, $500. In 2022, for the 2022 class, there was, my friend and I, we paid, there was no class offered until 2025 in St. John. And we have sent in emails as to how we're going to get refunded. So are we going to get refunded? Who should we be speaking to? UVI? The taxi commission? I mean, we paid the fee to the taxi commission. And since this year, in taking the class, I have had to pay other fees. So why is it the fees wasn't taken from that? So why wasn't it deducted from that? Exactly.
Yeah.
So like my $500 is still there.
Well, I believe the taxi cab commission members and the acting executive director could clarify that for you, and maybe that may be a one-on-one conversation.
I just have
Yeah,
a
but
question to that. Do you have the receipt?
I do.
Okay, we'll forward it to the tax
So that's what I'm
commission.
saying, they would probably be the best people to address your issues, David. And it's a good thing, it's a true woman, I tell you, I'm gonna keep receipts for years, even over 10 years, good.
I got my receipt too.
You got your receipt?
Let's let her respond.
Right, so.
I got my own $1,000.
Okay, so of course I inherited a lot of,
Put the
I have inherited a lot of history, some administrative challenges to include what she just mentioned, a cost that was paid several years ago. Um, I would have to research the details and revisit the purposing of the payment, the purpose of the payment. But in addition to that, there is a cost for the badges. That's not a fee that's waived. So certain costs are gonna stand, but I don't know how many years ago that was. But yeah, that's a long time ago. So I would have to research that and address it with her and see how we would.
Yeah, so we considered that as a board when, you gotta remember, there's some new people in play now. So what we had decided to do was, if you had your receipt, you bring it into the office. You're saying you didn't get a class, so in your case, what we would do is we'd take your receipt and whatever wasn't covered, whatever was utilized, we'd credit you back. So that's something we could discuss with the executive director. Okay, so I'm hearing about it for the first time, so I'm gonna have a discussion and we'll figure that part out. But for anyone who paid for the class and did not get the class, was able to produce their receipt, you come into the office, produce the receipt to us, and then we'll take it from there. Because if you've already paid it, we definitely wouldn't charge you again for it.
Right.
Yeah, well, I don't want to discuss her personal business in front of the world, but yeah, but we don't know, we don't have her file, so what I would do is I would ask you to reach out to the executive director. Let's set up a meeting. You bring in your supporting documents and we'll work it out.
Okay. One more thing. The classes that we did this year were completed the end of August. They told us to pick up the certificate. We got an email, pick up your certificates the end of September. But we have people that have been going back every week and still to the taxi commission. You don't have the certificate, but then to get the letter, I went this afternoon.
So these sound like operations. Let's clarify. Let's clarify.
Okay. Well,
Let the director respond.
Okay, that sounds like a very unique situation because, number one, all of the certificates were received through UVI cell. And that was for transparency and fairness to all of the students. All of the certificates were to be picked up by at UVI cell.
So in fact,
through the administrating.
I apologize for interjecting. So to clarify, the taxi commission does not generate or issue the certificate. It's UVI cell.
Correct.
Okay.
Now we are made aware of the grades. We are made aware of the success rate of the students. So we have that for documentation purposes in order to now issue a badge. Now, the badges can be picked up at the taxi cab commission, and the badges, the issuance of the badge is $100 by policy. And that is the letter that she may be referring to. But that didn't have a deadline. You can come and pick that up at the taxi cab commission.
So.
I went today. That would have to be tomorrow.
Okay, so just for clarity, when the documentation that comes out of you taking a class, you get that through UVI cell. And I think that's what we needed to clarify. The badges itself will come from the Office of Taxi Cab Commission. And we should be, it's ready and available to be picked up. Correct. So you went today, so we'll find out what took place today. Okay. We'll find out what took place. I'm just being transparent. I don't work in the office. I could only try to find out the information. But they are supposed to be readily available. We're going to find out why they weren't accessible today, because that shouldn't be the case.
I can answer
So what we'll do here
Oh,
is
she said she could answer.
even one moment, Director. What we'll do here is if there is any specific grievances, right, we'll make sure that we provide the director with a name, contact phone, email address, so that she can get a ledger going of whatever issues or grievances exist, and then she would be able to respond to each of you at the appropriate time. But please respond, Director.
Okay, I do know that 85% of the badges were picked up both in St. Croix and St. Thomas. Some of them were picked up from St. John. Now, we do recommend that in certain cases, St. John calls ahead for certain items that they're going to pick up, retrieve, because we may have a technical glitch. I do know that the ladies mentioned that they had an issue with the badge machine, which was brought to my attention. All of the letters for the potential operators were pre-populated and signed because those were approved. But I think that we did have a glitch that was brought to my attention just this morning with the actual badge machine. So we do apologize for that. That's just a conversation, and we're working on having that fixed. It was a technical matter. Pardon? What about last week? I'm not sure what happened last week.
So what we probably should implement, and just speaking real time here, is that anybody coming over, because I know it's a task to get over to St. Croix. Well, let me
So,
finish.
so let her finish, and then we
Because
can.
the executive director said that she has to, or she would suggest that there's contact prior to, so she could pull the files. Instead of wasting your time, what I'm suggesting, and we'll have a conversation afterwards because I'm now being made aware of this, that when anyone is coming, especially from St. John, that we're able to have a notice before, so we could pull your information and you don't have to play, hit and miss, and it would be prepared for you, and then you could just acquire it. So I'm hearing of this now. I didn't know about it before. So I'm going to have a conversation with the executive director so we could better address your needs.
And I think, proceed.
Being that, I don't know if she would mind, Ms. Mona George is on the board. If she would be able to pick up the information for us, because coming from St. John, to go down there, to be told you have to come back, it died. Come on.
And let me chime in here too, because one of the things that the Taxi Cab Commission has been lacking is the technology. The technology. And we, as the legislature, we need to make sure that they upgrade their technology to be able to provide information to you in real time. This thing about paper-based, and because right now they have an antiquated system, and I'm preaching to the choir. They're here. If I'm wrong, they'll correct me. They have an antiquated system. It's all paper-based. That means that you have to open up the draft file, search down somebody's name. If you misspell, we gotta go double check. We gotta do this, that, and the other. And that is not conducive for this day and age. And we really need to make sure that they have all of the technological upgrades and enhancements so that you, meaning, or any other taxi driver, are not inconvenienced with wait times like this. The more time you waste going back and forth, the less business you're gonna get. So, please chime in, Director or Chairwoman.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and this is what we're talking about, getting that financial support to upgrade our systems. But in addition to that, we tried to address this matter in a different way as we spoke with DLCA about trying to make a portion of this electronic. For instance, when you get your business license, you get an electronic copy, and then if you want a hard copy, you have a little fee to pay. That is one of the things that we considered because we know that it takes away from your business to have to come into an office. And at this time and age, we shouldn't even have to do that. You should be able to access your stuff online, and if you want a hard copy, we get it to you. But again, this is some of the trials that we have because we really don't have the staffing and the support to be able to hire the amount of staffing we need. As far as having someone bring it over to St. John, it would have to be out from the office itself because we have certain ways that we secure documents. We can't just willy-nilly give it to anybody. And board members, we try our best, although we're more hands-on as board members these days because we are trying to lend extra support to the office as they don't have much staff. We're also not to be so intricately involved in the day-to-day operations. And so it's really up to the executive director and her staff. However, now that we know this situation is going on, we can have a conversation about maybe even scheduling once a week or twice a week that we have somebody come over. But again, everything costs money, right? So we have to figure it out. But thank you for bringing it to our attention. The best thing I could say is that we'll have the discussion about possibly setting aside a schedule where we could have somebody possibly come over, and then everyone would know whatever day it is to come to get their stuff. So, yeah.
I believe Mr. Calwood wanted to make a statement.
Yes, good evening. My name is Derek Calwood. I'm a taxi endorser for the past 20 years. I've been an employee of the Taxi Cab Commission, Miss Elizabeth Hansen-Watley, Miss Smith, and Miss George. Good night to the present board members. My question is, C-Trade, because I take a lot of notes, I wait for my turn. C-Trade, I heard the senators talk about C-Trade and the exposures and stuff. Now, I would be under the belief that Ms. Hansen-Watley have experienced C-Trade, but have the other members of the board have an opportunity to experience C-Trade? That's a question to the board members.
We were hoping to go, but financially the board could not send us. Chairperson Watley and I spoke about it, but we don't have the funds in Taxi Cab Commission to go.
Okay.
So not saying that that's not on our radar to do because we do believe that we need to go and experience it. And also, whenever we can get our additional funding, I think another good idea would be to ask of the legislature's support in getting some of the taxi drivers to go, just to get, it's not a cheap venture. The cost of the tickets and the rooms and all of that, and so it'd be a concerted effort, but it's definitely something I think that the taxi drivers need to experience. Even if you guys collectively come together and have a delegation go on your behalf, it is something that I would very much encourage because it really opens up your perspective to what other destinations are doing all in one conference, and they do a projection of 5 years out. So you would know what's coming 5 years ahead. You'd know what ships and all of that stuff ahead of time.
And the reason why I ask is because, I mean, this setting right here is kind of being redundant. And it's a good effort that our community leaders is taking a forefront and trying to bring it, whereas they could have a decent operational structure. But within the laws under Title 20, Chapter 37, it would be based upon the responsibility of the board members to get with the taxi community in holding town hall meetings, these different things, to bring about changes, implement changes, advise the legislature, advise the governor which part we could implement these changes to make a better and improved industry for the transportation service, right? So when I hear Senator Gittins talk about task force, we really don't need a task force. We just need to support our board members on top of the Taxi Cab Commission to help it possible where they could hold more community meetings and be more interactive with the taxi members, because we have members that have optional payment We have members, new innovative members. We have a young lady right here. She's in her 20s, early 30s. These are new innovative drivers that don't want to leave that dollar go or don't want to have to put the patron at an inconvenience to take them to a bank or take them to some other monetary transaction industry to get paid, right? So we have these things already established. But then let me ask you a next question. What is, and this is pertaining to you, Ms. Hansen-Watley, what is the lowest capacity of your cruise ship that calls here in our territory?
Well, it depends on what we're talking about. If it's boutique ships, it could be 100, 200 people. And then we could go as far as about 3,000.
Okay.
And mega ships. So
okay.
There's a variety.
So, and the reason why I asked you that question is because we're talking about numbers, statistics, these things. The lowest capacity a cruise ship carries here in the territory is at minimum 1,500 passengers. And whether it's passengers and crew, because those numbers are separated, at least to accommodate 1,500 passengers at a capacity of 25 passengers per taxi, you're gonna need 60 taxis, okay? You're gonna need 60 taxis to accommodate 1,500 passengers for one ship. Our territory call over 345 ships per year, according to your commissioner testimony before the legislature, okay? So if we call over 345 ships at minimum at 1,500, maximum at 8,000 or 9,000 passengers, we need to increase our capacity. We have to increase our capacity when it comes to the taxi industry. We can't cut them at 25 or 27. We have to find more innovative ways to increase their capacity. And an innovative way to increase the capacity in a road worthy and safety environment which party could traverse these passengers along our highways and streets, right? However, that would be based upon the Taxi Cab Commission Board to look into establishing a new capacity for our taxi men and ladies. We talk about share ride. Right now, the taxi industries is already doing share ride. Whether Mr. Kenneth have 25, whether this young lady have 14, everybody that goes into that taxi are not going to the same location. That's a share ride. It's a share ride. It's already in existence. They're done doing share ride. We have to be able to secure our laws, protect our taxi industries, and protect the drivers to make sure they could accommodate our constituents, our visitors, everybody in our territory. So when it comes to share ride, I would advise our leaders, we don't look into undermining the law that protects our medallion franchise. Because our medallion franchise, we actually have 6 medallion per territory, 2 St. John, 2 St. Croix, 2 St. Thomas. And if we undermine that, we are going to undermine the value in a medallion, 1, and then we're going to undermine the interest that the sales of those medallions goes over to the Veterans Affairs to help our veterans. That's 2. So we're going to undermine a whole structure. I do believe what you guys should be looking into is separating Department of Transportation out of Public Works and renaming our transportation industry, whereas our local Department of Transportation can govern land, air, or sea, whether it's limo, whether it's a tour company, or a taxi industry. We have to think more. We have to be more open-minded, okay? We're going to be here, and we're going to, well, go ahead, Mr. Bookworth. I'm going to rebuttal.
No, thank you. So I appreciate your input and comments. Most definitely, you're well-versed in the area. But one thing I wanted to bring to your attention, if you had not known, The Revised Organic Act prohibits us from creating any additional departments currently. So we unfortunately cannot create a separate department for the government of the Virgin Islands at this time. We're now in the middle of our 6th Constitutional Convention. Hopefully that is something that they are discussing based on the writing of the 1954 Revised Organic Act. But that is a good idea. I mean, having a Department of Transportation definitely would be something beneficial that you would be able to, regulate public and private. I don't know if that would be part of how the Taxi Cab Commission, I don't know where you would exist in that network or in that vicinity, but, it's something that could be thought about. But at this time, we cannot do it, unfortunately.
My quick comment is I do see where the public transportation services and the services at the Taxi Cab Commission, they do overlap to some degree in certain areas. It is a policy issue, so I can't delve into policy matters. So for instance, with the 2050 transportation plan, we see where there are certain regulatory matters specifically to safaris and the Vitran public transportation system. And I think that somehow between the umbrella of the association and the Vitran public service, the public transportation system, we should be able to leverage and tap into some of those resources to support the uniqueness of the territory's transportation system, which actually does include safaris. We have to include that.
Yeah, I just remembered the guy left now, but I went thoroughly through that law, and there are different distinctions of vehicles for hire, automobile for hire. So I didn't want the assumption to be made that he was correct in that, what he said, because the law, if you read through the entire title, then it tells you the different distinctions: taxi, vehicle for hire, automobile for hire. And I know the terms sound similar, but there's definitions in the title. And I don't want anybody to think I'm an advocate. I don't have no rideshare business. What I'm doing is I'm being fully transparent about the information shared, because I think that one of the things that has been going on for a long time is people are speaking in their own corners and nobody's actually coming in the room and sharing the information, which could benefit taxi, because if I am charged with, as a board member, making sure that we don't only exist, but we thrive and we stay competitive, I have to be honest when I hear information and share it with you all and say, this is what's happening, we see it. I know taxi drivers have seen it, because you're the ones on the front lines. I get some complaints and I've seen some things, but I have to, and the taxi commission itself has to heavily rely on taxi drivers to tell us when you see something going on, especially given that we don't have the amount of enforcement that we would like, although we are working on that. So it is definitely a collaborative effort, and that's what I'm saying. It's very important that we stay connected with y'all, because you're our eyes and ears out there on the road.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Carlot, one thing I want to clarify with you. Your ideas, I heard my colleague's position, but I'm not certain, but your idea about the transportation department, because I know this current governor had one time, was thinking of putting taxi cab on the public works with the whole transportation. Yes, whole transportation stuff. So we're going to look into it, because you brought some relevance there. So I know you need some more research on it, but great idea. So I just wanted to put that on the table, that it's not scratched off the table. It's something that I definitely will look into. But thank you for your idea.
Well, I'm going to pass as much ideas and solutions for you guys to come together collectively.
But this is why we have
and
these
improve the industry.
These type of conversations.
Because that's why we're running for office next year in 2026, to try to improve the operation of the government and help our people in this community. Yes. However, 84 new drivers how was the drivers them? How did they attend it class? Via Zoom, in person? Okay. Did we had classes throughout the COVID adventure? Did we had classes via Zoom? And I do believe I'm going to support her because I taught it over Zoom. Yes, we did. So we have a more larger platform over Zoom. So I think our board need to get back to the drawing boards and make it available, whereas because if you open a taxi commission, the taxi drivers list, the testing application of process, you open that. St. Thomas, you're going to have damn near 500 people. Not as much as St. John and St. Croix because the demand is more on St. Thomas. But then when you have that demand, because right now, you remember, every taxi plate that you see on the road operating reflects a medallion. So we only have 1,200 medallions here in the territory of St. Thomas. 1,200 and change. Okay? And if it takes 60 at 1,500 passengers, we are understaffed when it comes to the industry, promoting taxi operators, and getting more medallions out there.
So I don't mean to cut you off, but we do have a hard stop at 8:30 because media cutting off at 8:30.
I know I took the mic at the last.
5:30 to 8:30.
Yes.
So I do appreciate you. Yes. We're going to be in St. Thomas tomorrow, and I thank you. 8:27. And I really thank you. So if you have to get in one quick question, Mr. Louis.
I have a lot, I really
understand you. But I see you back there play bashful all night too. You didn't want to speak up. So, I mean, I really, but thank you. I really appreciate it. Let's go, Mr. Louis.
Quick question to Ms. Smith, Director.
Yes.
Kenneth Lewis. In the past, when a taxi driver violated, that case was being brought to the director. And the director herself or himself was here in that case. Is that still going to continue, or do you have plans of changing that? So let me ask, what are the backgrounds that director have in law enforcement or being a lawyer to hear the case? Because for my feeling, what I'm looking at, if your officer, and Carl would can attest to that, if your officer give me a ticket, are you going to go against your officer?
Well, we have to hear the case. It depends on what is presented.
I understand. But I think that's where we have like the courts to address it, or even the AG office. But I mean, it's something that we let you respond.
Because the reason why I'm asking that, Senator, quickly.
Yes.
I do not know if Ms. Smith going to implement that, but in the past, they were not giving you, that taxi driver, any right to appeal to somebody, to a court of law, which is wrong.
Respond because I really don't like open-ended questions like this. So, Ms. Watley, the fastest way you go.
Yeah, let me just address that fast. The answer is that we as a board also, we have subcommittees, and we have board members assigned that deal with complaints. So what would happen is that when it's turned in, and remember, we're changing how things operate, we would be involved with our executive director, and of course, we would allow her to do her investigation, but in addition to that, certain information is brought to the board for our review. So it's not something that we want to ignore, and I know in the past things have happened differently, but we're changing the direction to make sure that we could respond to complaints. But the point of contact would be the executive director.
My point of argument is in every court system,
yes. I understand. But colleagues, and I really have to close out because I can't continue doing stuff this. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, especially the St. John community, the taxi community. You've been awesome. You've been great. We gleaned a lot of information. We do have homework to do. we do have a lot of homework to do, and we put a lot of ask and demand on you, and I really appreciate it. Again, on behalf of all the members of the 36th legislature, I really do appreciate you. Thank you. God bless, and everybody get home safely. Have a great night.